Omaha Steaks makes it easy to keep great food on hand, so dinner time is simple and convenient. And right now, you can get 12 free burgers and free shipping for life when you shop at omahasteaks.com/yourplan. At Omaha Steaks, you're in control. Order once or set up recurring shipments for more savings, more convenience, and inflation-proof pricing. Visit omahasteaks.com/yourplan to get started today and get 12 free burgers and free shipping for life. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, I'm an arts programmer and cultural critic in Toronto, and this is The Other Thing I Do. My guest this week, returning to the podcast 10 years after tackling A Woman Under the Influence, is Ingrid Veninger, an actor turned writer, producer, and director whose latest feature, Crocodile Eyes, finds Ingrid folding herself, her parents, her daughter, and her grandchild into a metafictional narrative about birth, death, and everything in between. It's been making its way around the country and is playing at VIFF Centre in Vancouver this Thursday, April 17th, as part of their Canadian Film Week. If you're around, you should go. This time, Ingrid picked Inland Empire, David Lynch's experimental 2006 drama starring Laura Dern as an actor who accepts a leading role in a movie that may or may not be cursed, and finds herself caught up in an increasingly bizarre nightmare of commingled identities, shadowy figures, and human rabbit hybrids, maybe. A stylistic triumph, even if it confounded certain audiences, it's an accomplishment that's only grown more powerful now that it's turned out to be Lynch's final feature. This is Someone Else's Movie.
David Lynch, Inland Empire. I actually saw it for the first time when I was working on Nurse Fighter Boy with Charles, Officer. So that would have been 2007. And I think Stacey Donen programmed it at the Royal, and we went to see it. And it was very different from what we were making, but we were like, oh, God. It was like, you know, when you see something you wish you made, but you know you could never make it? That's what Inland Empire was for us. And then it became sort of a cinema salve, and I would watch it every 5 years, and I would show it to the actors and the crews that I've been making films with. So I remember watching it in 2011 with my I Am a Good Person, I Am a Bad Person team, and my DP Ben Lichty saying, if we are making anything that looks like that, I'm out. So it was almost like a sort of, I don't know, testing ground. And sometimes I would work with people that absolutely hated it. And I think, okay, well, we are going to be complementary energies. And sometimes I'd work with people that absolutely got it and loved it. And then those were my people.
Okay. It is a fascinating moment in time for DV or HD cam or whatever it was he shot it on. Now it looks incredibly analog. Even though it is digital, it has that sense that, like the lights are too bright and the whites blow out. And there's this loose, I've never known how to describe it other than liquid. There's a sense that there's a liquidity to the film, to the image itself, where things aren't completely solid. I don't know how else to explain it. And the resolution isn't quite there, but it's also too sharp.
Yeah. That's interesting because we use the same camera. It's the Panasonic PD-150 for Nurse Fighter Boy. So we were shooting with the exact same camera. And it has this really, really high def feeling that it's like super, super crisp and fake looking. At the same time, it has a pretty great sensor. So it can shoot in very low light and doesn't completely break apart. We have all these flares in Inland Empire and all these dark textures and dark corridors and the movement. It really could. It's a great camera for handheld. And the low light. And as sort of Lynch said, he for us it was a price point issue. We just could not afford to shoot 35. But he used it very intentionally and said smaller crew, lightweight, way more flexibility and options. It gave him options in post-production, which I think he really played with a lot with this film.
Yeah, it is a movie made by absolutely the seat of a man's pants. Like he built it out of pieces. Some of the rabbit shorts are I think they predate Mulholland Drive, or they're or one version of Mulholland Drive. They were made between the pilot and the feature version. If I'm getting that right, there's all sorts of strange digressions, and it's still coherent, which amazes me. Did you see it at the Royal? You saw it in a theater the first time?
Yeah, I saw it in a theater the first time, and then I watched it on DVD. I bought the DVD, and I just watched it again this morning at 10 a.m. It's a weird movie to watch first thing in the morning. Um, But yeah, it's interesting to hear him, in when he's spoken about Inland Empire, to talk about it being really risky for him, that he'd worked with scripts, and this was kind of the first time that he really did not work with a screenplay, and that he truly did not know what he was doing, and no one else seemed to know what he was doing. Like Laura Dern was like, I don't know what we're making. I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out or if it's going to turn out. Thoreau, also Jeremy Irons, he's calling up people and saying, I'm making this experiment. He called it an experiment, an experimental film. Um, and he's writing scenes as he goes, but he kind of described it as a web where thoughts were being hyperlinked to one another, and he was just trying to move through it really intuitively. And he strikes me as a very intuitive filmmaker. So this one, I felt like he was pushing himself into more, into a more subconscious, unplanned, truly risky territory.
The thing about Lynch is that he is the most old-fashioned man in the world, right? Like you would never see him. You couldn't imagine, oh, I'm going to make a film that is like the World Wide Web. But he was also aware of all that stuff, and he was excited about the possibilities. The Twin Peaks third season really does feel like someone has created a PowerPoint presentation of obsessions. And Inland Empire, yeah, exactly what you said about the actors trusting him when he died. And I was trying to figure out what to say for CBC in Lower Manhattan, dark, like terribly lit Hilton reception area, and it's perfect. It's exactly what it looks like. But I kept thinking about Inland Empire as this. It's not an artistic statement as much. I mean, it is, but it's not as much of an artistic statement as it is a statement of his ensemble, like that he built a repertory company that was willing to jump in with him on whatever it was, like having Grace Zabriskie show up and do the thing she does, and Laura Dern just committing to shoot whatever this was going to be, and sort of flip through his Rolodex of ideas, because it does feel like everything he'd been working on up until that point, but also the digital aspect of it let him break new ground and not worry so much about the formalism that, like that it's not suffocating, but the oppressive formalism that was his trademark right up until Mulholland Drive just gets thrown away in the first 5 minutes. He still does incredible things with room tone. Like he can make air sound distressing. He was always the best at communicating that to his sound designers somehow. No one else really even comes close. But this feels like it feels like it came out of one person, which it isn't. I mean, he's still a collaborator in the best possible way with his actors and his crew. But this movie, more than anything else he did before or since, really does feel like a one-man band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like he let himself free fall, and you can feel the stress of it and the bliss of it, the ecstasy of it and the agony of it. Um, I was saying I'd watch the Lynch one, a documentary about the making of Inland Empire, and there's a 1.5 hour version of it, and then there's a 30-minute version. It's by the black and white team that made the Art Life, the documentary. Um, and you see him directing Laura Dern, and you see him sort of saying, okay, do this, then look there, and then look, that's your eye line, and then do this. And I want you to have this expression where you're like this. And then you come down, and then your eyes dart away, you're going, uh-huh, 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 absolutely, uh-huh. Not questioning, just, I'm going to absorb what you're saying. I'm not going to ask you why. I'm just going to absorb, I'm going to trust, and I'm going to do. And you can just feel, and when he's talking, his fingers are always going like this, like he's catching ideas. He's just catching them on the fly. And then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And it's like a stream of consciousness. He hasn't pre-visualized. He's not predetermined. He opens himself up. He's totally receptive to all the signs and signals coming from wherever. And then he's communicating, and everyone's an extension of him. And they're all just in this groove, working intuitively and trusting and not questioning and maybe doubting and being confused, but like being in the confusion and doing it anyway. It's so supremely sublime. And he's working with this subconscious, framework of corridors and pathways. And I don't think he's even letting himself question. And that's the kind of wild free fall that you can only achieve when you're working with people that really trust you and who you really trust.
The thing you described about his hands, I see it as a conductor, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like he's orchestrating all these things or trying to play a melody that no one else can hear. But it is, it's this fascinating proposition that he extends to his collaborators, but also to the audience, where like, this is what I'm doing. You don't have to stay. I don't think more than any of his other projects, even more so than Twin Peaks: The Return. I think he made this purely for himself. Pick up the camera and see what happens, and stitch the story together after the fact, or in his head while it was happening, or even just, as you say, leaving himself open to the possibility that he'll stumble onto something in this scene that will inform the next or the previous.
Yeah, and that it might not work. There's no guarantee what the result of this experiment will be. And this morning, I swear, Norm, I watched a little bit of the documentaries last night, and then this morning I watched Inland Empire, all of it. And I was dreaming, the last dream I had this morning was of this red spider, and it was crawling on my leg, and I had a piece of wood, like a 2x4 piece of wood, and I smashed it on my leg, and there was blood on my leg, but there was no spider. And then I looked up, and over my desk, there was this weird web, like there was a web, but then it was this really, really stringy, long, threads going from the window to my desk, and on these threads were these two red spiders. And I started Googling like spiders and how they make webs, and the internet told me that spiders are born knowing how. They don't have to think about it. They just know. It's an intuitive process. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think of Lynch. I think like he was just kind of born knowing. And then the industry and different things tell us how we should do, and that we should make things bigger and with stars, and they should have these big commercial releases, and they should make money. And this film is almost a retreat from all that. He's like, I'm gonna do it with Studio Canal and a co-producer in Poland, and I'm gonna pull it right back, and I'm gonna self-distribute this thing, and we're gonna open in 2 theaters, and I'm gonna go on tour with a cow, and I'm gonna do it my way, and no one's gonna tell me how to do it. And he took all the control back to say, I'm gonna really and make a commentary also on Hollywood and commercial cinema and abuse of power and all of these things, but in a way that only Lynch can, imitating no one else, like a spider.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Just the other thing that I said when we were talking about his death on CBC was that you can count on the fingers of one hand directors who've had, their names become adjectives. Lynchian, Cronenbergian, Spielbergian, Ackermanian, I suppose. But only Lynch has succeeded to the point where you can accuse someone of being Lynchian, but it's only ever in terms of failure. No one ever equaled him. No one else seems to be able to grasp the thing he does. There are other surrealists. There are other formalists. There are other people who try for the emotional intensity, like Aronofsky, I think, does that, comes close sometimes, but he doesn't try to do it the same way Lynch did, because you can't. You can't dress people up in, Ursat's 50s clothes and have them exist in the present day in an uncanny way the way he does, because it's just immediately a knockoff. There's the bar is set so high.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the other thing of Inland Empire, which is that my first experience of it, and I think I might have told this story on the podcast before, was at the Palm Springs Film Festival. I was a juror there in 2007, and at the end of the festival, there on the last weekend, we had some quiet time, and Inland Empire was playing in this great big theater, like a 600-seat theater underneath the strip mall, where we'd seen a bunch of films, and it was screening. And it's like, God damn it, I'm going to see this in a theater. I have no idea if it's even going to open in Canada. So I went and I saw it with 599 Palm Springs residents who I don't even know that they knew it was a Lynch film. I think they just wanted to see what that nice Laura Dern was doing these days.
Uh-huh.
And they did not accept it. Like they rejected it like an antibody. And it was almost more interesting to experience a film with a hostile crowd. And it's not my favorite of his films. And it's, the first time you see it, it is deeply confusing. And this was a 35 millimeter print, so it looked terrible, an output from DV, but it was still really compelling. And Dern is incredible. And then you get to see, like, somebody, you mentioned Jeremy Irons, who I don't know that he was fully on board, which is really interesting. Like, it's just clearly not the way he likes to work, but he plays the exhaustion of someone who doesn't know what's going on in such an interesting, like, he turns that into a character point, or the way that, Macy is so chipper and fake in the way that only William H. Macy can do, but there's still something pushing through underneath that's maybe a little concerned or desperate, that why am I reading the words that I'm reading, that informs those scenes in ways that certainly my audience could not understand, let alone accept.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting. And there's that moment where Dern goes up the flight of stairs into the private investigator's office and says, I don't know what I'm doing here. And a woman down the row shouted out, we don't either. And they laughed. And it's just like, oh, so you're really, and this is 2 hours in. Why are these people still here? I also don't think they knew how long it was.
Yeah.
They came out of it and they looked like they'd been on a march, like just tired and angry and resentful. And it's 4:00 in the afternoon. So you come outside and you're blinking in this beautiful California sun. And I was so high on that experience of, this is never going to happen again. I will not have that experience again, whatever the film and whatever the audience. That kind of incredible moment of, oh, that's right, David Lynch isn't for everybody.
Yeah. But I mean, how incredible to feel that much, to be sort of angry and confused and resentful. And I mean, I go through a whole range of emotions watching this film. I mean, in the last crane shot where Laura Dern, spoiler, is dying, and they're talking over her about, this and that. And the woman says, it's you're dying, that's all. And then she flicks the lighter and says, just, look, here's some light. This is the light. Just look at the light. I'm so moved by that. And the 35 millimeter Panasonic cameras on the crane, while David Lynch's digital camera is capturing the moment. And so what it's saying about our industry and the blurry lines between the roles we play, or being on camera and being off camera, and life and art, and I find it so profoundly moving. But I'm also utterly lost and confused and sort of dumbfounded, but I cannot look away. So to be in that theater, full of people that are restless and angry and confused and going like, Laura Dern, why is she in this film? What is going on and when is it going to be over? It's kind of like a ride you desperately want to get off, but you can't get off. I think that's amazing. And I'm sure they're still talking about it. Like you're talking about that story. And I'm sure it's a film that has made a deep imprint. They're still talking about how horrid that experience was. It's brilliant.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I wrote about the new releases of Baby Girl and The Brutalist from A24 and Elevation Pictures, and Via Vision's wonderful new discs of Man Bites Dog, In the Bedroom, and Shattered Glass. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io, or find a link at the Semcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I like writing about them. Come check it out.
Omaha Steaks makes it easy to keep great food on hand, so dinner time is simple and convenient. And right now, you can get 12 free burgers and free shipping for life when you shop at omahasteaks.com/yourplan. Only Omaha Steaks gives you the freedom to set your menu your way with no commitments. Choose extra-aged, hand-carved steaks, plump and juicy air-chilled chicken, and so much more. Order once or set up recurring shipments for more savings, more convenience, and inflation-proof pricing. Want to change your menu? No problem. Swap items, skip a shipment, or cancel at any time with no questions asked. You're in control to get what you want when you want it, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. At Omaha Steaks, it's all about you. Visit omahasteaks.com/yourplan to sign up for recurring shipments and get 12 free burgers, a $431 per year value, and free shipping for life. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
Very possibly. I mean, this is 18 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was really remarkable. And I had gone by myself, but I had a badge on, so, like a lanyard. So on the way out, people were asking me what I thought. And I said, I don't know. I want to take some time and really sit with it and think about it. But I think I've seen something that no one else could ever have made. And a couple of people said, well, I can't believe I sat through the whole thing. It's like, no, you sat through the whole thing. That's a thing you did. That's like, that is the accomplishment, that you actually watched a 3-hour film. You don't have to be convinced it was the best thing you ever saw or the worst thing you ever saw. But, you sat with art for 3 hours. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, you can't deny that is an experience.
They didn't agree
You
with
have
me.
just had an experience. And it's most likely unforgettable. And he plays with time, like the clocks and time. And when I was watching it this morning, I kept thinking of in Margaret Atwood's Cat's Eye, one of the first lines is about time. And she says, time is not a line, but a series of liquid transparencies, one laid on top of another. We don't look across time, but down through it. And sometimes this comes to the surface, and sometimes that comes to the surface, and sometimes nothing comes to the surface, but it's all there at the same time. And when I watch Inland Empire, the way he's moving between time, between consciousness and subconsciousness, it's like different things are coming to the surface, but it's so hard to, in that dream world, to actually articulate and translate that we are in a dreamscape, we are in dream time, and it's abstract and it's surreal and it's real and it's bending and blurring. And to be in that experience where you're as disoriented as you are, that takes such craft and artistry and intention. Like the abstraction is so intentional. And I don't know if anyone but David Lynch, maybe after 35 years of transcendental meditation, can actually have the skill to translate that state of being where time is liquid. Like you use the word liquid. Time is liquid, and you feel like you're in that liquid when you're watching this film.
That is what I thought. Like that, there's that word again.
Yeah.
Liquidity or liquid. There's something going on that isn't conventional, right? In any way. And it's not just, I don't think, I was just looking again, unless it's missing deliberately, I don't think there's an editor's credit on this movie.
He's the editor.
Yeah, but he doesn't take credit for it, I don't think. He gets
Mm-hmm.
directed, written by, and co-producer, but that's it, or producer rather. But there's no, he's credited a bunch of times, camera operator, sound designer, but I think maybe that's some kind of acknowledgement that he doesn't understand how it happened. And this is the thing, like I never got to talk to him. We were supposed to meet on the on the Mulholland Drive junket, which was 9/11, and so that didn't happen. I did get to watch Naomi Watts ushered out of the building at like 9:10 a.m. It was a horrible day, but yeah, the timing never worked out. I never did get to meet him, but how do you even begin to say this is the movie I would have wanted to talk to him about the most? But it is, because it's the thing that doesn't make sense, but makes complete sense within his filmography. It feels like the turning point after Mulholland Drive. He clearly chose never to do something he didn't want to do again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it started as a project for I think it was CBS or ABC. It was a network television pilot that didn't go, and so he turned it into a movie with an extra act on the end. And you can kind of feel in Mulholland Drive that he's rehashing things from Lost Highway. And I wonder if that's sort of the end of his tolerance for working within a narrative system. And then it took him another, 6 years to make Inland Empire, or 5. And it still has his fascinations, and like he's interested in talking about the way people make art as a collective, and what you have to give up to have your vision make it to the screen in any form. But here it's on his terms. I mean, he sort of talks about it in the Lynch one documentary, that this is the thing he wants to do. And there are some, I may have said this before, I've definitely said this about other people. And there are some artists who can only do the thing they do. And the second you're one of them. The second you try to tilt it in another direction, you can feel the give, right? Like you can feel something isn't working. Mm-hmm. And it's instinctive and it's intuitive and it's impossible to explain. You have to experience it to understand it. And after that, if you sit through Inland Empire for 3 hours in a strip mall theater and you don't like it, that's fine. You still experienced it the way it was supposed to be seen and the way it was intended to be experienced. Mm-hmm. And he was, he got to spend 20 years just doing that after Mulholland Drive. I mean, yes, one of them was a weird Netflix short where he yells at a small monkey. Yeah. But again, like he was David Lynch. If that's the end point of your career, if you spend 50 years making art and then Netflix offers you money, you're going to make a movie where you shout at a monkey for fun, because why the hell wouldn't you?
Everybody has to watch that. Yeah, I feel like I feel like this is Inland Empire is Lynch turned inside out. And I think the film is also questioning or asking, is it worth it? Like, what is the price? What is the price to do this stuff, to sort of surrender to the making with all of your guts? Like, is the end, how far are you willing to go? And I think in this film, it's everything he's got as a filmmaker, as a painter, the way he's painting with light, painting with texture, painting with tone. As a musician, I mean, the soundscape, you mentioned it, is like extraordinary. And then he's got Beck in there, and then he's got Nina Simone in there, and then he's got Locomotion in there. I mean, the sound design is fantastic. I only miss that he's not, I know his voice is in the film, like his voice is the gaffer or whatever, and in response to Jeremy Irons, but I wish he was actually in this film, because he's actually quite an incredible actor. That's the only thing that would have completed the piece to me if we had David Lynch on camera in Inland Empire.
Yeah, it would feel like more of a signature. But at the same time, like he signs it from the very beginning. Like there's no one else who could have started. Like there's no one else who works like this. And there's no one else, sadly, well, not sadly, that's not fair, but there's no one else who gets this kind of work out of Laura Dern, or who could get it, I think, because she trusts him so implicitly. And I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to focus entirely on Lynch, because the collaboration is also the point, really. Yeah. They'd been working together at that point for, is it 15 years? I guess, no, almost 20. It would have been, because Blue Velvet was shot in 85. So yeah, that's a 20-year relationship. And this was the first feature she'd made with him since Wild and Heart, if I remember correctly, which is
Yeah.
like a gap of 12 years. And she is so clearly prepared to do whatever it is he wants. And that kind of relationship is sacred, I think, between an actor and an artist, and a director of any kind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's, I think, at the top of her game as an actor. I mean, the kinds of things she's channeling, the text in that monologue at the top of the stairs, um, the the unself-consciousness, like that camera is in her face, no makeup, little bit of makeup, just walking through the world, this world, um, without any, yeah, I mean, self-conscious kind of is the word. There's no judgment or hesitation or doubt, or even if she's not understanding rationally what is going on, she is fully committed. Her commitment is in every, from like every part of her body, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every strand of hair, every pore on her face is fully committed. And she looks atrocious sometimes. You know what I mean? I mean, it is frightening. Some of that stuff is frightening, and she's just with it. I don't think there's a moment where she'd say, you know, she's probably thinking, is this too much? She's saying, well, Lynch is, I'm going to trust, I'm going to go for it. And, you know, you can see in the documentary, Lynch is frustrated. I mean, he's kind of this, sometimes he's quite literally a madman, and you can see the thoughts ahead of his words, and he's trying to articulate and no one's getting it, or it's not moving fast enough, or he wants to be shooting and he's waiting on Laura Dern and makeup and he just loses it. And then the next one he's saying, I love you. Like it's he's in the thick of the art making, and it can be really emotionally charged and really, really intense and not always pleasant, not always like happy-go-lucky, easy. And Laura's with him through all of it. I know in one part of the doc, he's in this mixing studio and he's waiting for her and she's late or she didn't show up and it's 10 o'clock and he's just saying, I'm just really, I'm in a state right now. I'm a little bit angry. I can't talk to you. And you can hear her kind of on the other end going, I'm really sorry. It's like, I know, but I can't talk to you right now. I'll talk to you after lunch. And then he sort of puts down the phone. And so they're dealing with conflict, but underneath all of it, there's love and there's respect. And the way he calls her Tidbit and says, I love you, Tidbit. And she says, I love you. I love you. And he goes, I love you. And she goes, I love you. Okay. And action. Like the love, let's just bring it down to it's more than trust, it's respect. It's like an actual love for each other where you have each other's backs. That's what I felt he has for her and she has for him. And that's on the back of 20 years. That doesn't come, there's no fast track to that.
No, it's also, it's 20 years, and in there in the middle is the Jurassic Park movie where she becomes a massive, massive star who could presumably get his movies made if that was the thing. And I know that she was quietly supporting all sorts of artistic endeavors. She was she contributed, I don't know if it was money or time, but she did something that saved Vidiots in LA in 2013, maybe it was, because we were talking about it when she was here at TIFF for Wild. And she's just, and her parents are actors. Like, she knows all this stuff. It's in her bones. It's in her blood. And her relationship with Lynch always felt like something she was protecting. I don't know if this special feature made it onto the web. It probably is on the Criterion channel somewhere, but on the Blu-ray, there's a half-hour conversation between Dern and Kyle MacLachlan where they talk about Lynch's work. And this was recorded 2 years ago, I guess. And it really does just feel like old friends catching up, but they each have insights into how Lynch works and the warmth that they have for the process when they're talking about it. No question in my mind that everything has been worth it. That like they wouldn't go back if they were having a bad time. It's the same way Cronenberg can count on people to come and work with him again over decades, and how an actor's director is so often just boxed into that actor won an award with this director, so that director is an actor's director. But if you look at, I have this whole thing on Cronenberg as a director of actors. No one gives him any credit for it. But Lynch consistently got incredible, maybe not Oscar-winning performances as the Academy understands them, because the Academy doesn't have the room for something like this, right? They nominated Hopper for Hoosiers that year instead of Blue Velvet. But what you get is an innate understanding of what an actor can do and what a person is capable of, and where that bridge is. I think about the way Harry Dean Stanton looks friendly in this movie, and it's still disturbing because he understands, Lynch understands that Stanton, you frame him from the right angle and he looks sinister. He can be saying the nicest things in the world, or like the cowboy in Lost Highway. Yeah. If you see me twice, the weirdest, most innocuous dialogue, but it's deeply unsettling because of the mise-en-scène created around him, and then the actor can do the thing effortlessly. And I'm not in any way suggesting that Laura Dern does what she does in Inland Empire effortlessly. There's a great deal of effort involved in looking this natural, emotionally, I mean. And it's something that not everyone understands. That's what I mean about people using the phrase Lynchian as a negative, because he was the only one who could get us there as an audience to understand what this all meant. I think I have not seen anyone else succeed in that specific aesthetic.
Well, it's stripped down, right? It's so raw.
Especially here, yeah.
Yeah, it's so raw. And I think as filmmakers, that's what when you're trying to do when I'm trying to do something that I don't quite understand, and I'm working with my intuition, not with some predetermined plan, it's such a fragile thing. It's such an immersive thing. It takes over my whole life, and I imagine when Lynch is talking about these 2 years and he's so deeply in it, and he talks about how selfish you have to be as a creator. And, there's a price to pay, he's got different relationships. He's had 4 wives. He's had kids. He talks about, not ever sort of thinking he was going to be a father, but then things happened and, there it was. But when it feels to me that with his meditation, with how deep he goes, when you see him in his office, when you see him trying to catch those big ideas, if anyone hasn't read David Lynch, Catching the Big Fish, Meditation, Consciousness, and Creativity, please read that book. He talks about, big ideas like big fish, and you have to go into the deep end. And sometimes that can be a really isolating, alienating, lonely place, right? But it feels like when he's making a film, all the other people that are interested in being in that deep end, that are interested in kind of catching those big ideas, are with him. And that's when he's really thriving. And then it's not selfish because you're collaborating, like you said, and you're co-creating and you're trusting, and you're like, the work is the sum of all these parts. But he's the constant. And I sort of feel like, for me in my work, I hold him as an example, and Cassavetes, and filmmakers like Celine Sciamma, and all of these amazing artists that are able to work with people that are as committed and as immersed as they are for this finite period of time. And for me, that's my family. Like, those are the people that are willing to go the distance. But like Laura and Lynch, it's on the back of 20 or 30 years of living together. And they're like, okay, we don't know what's going to come out of this, but it's going to be, if nothing else, a worthwhile experience. We don't know if it's a film that anyone's going to see or anyone's going to like or anyone's going to, but it's going to be a worthwhile life experience. And that's what I feel like everyone coming into Lynch, knows, is whatever this is going to be, whatever's going to come out of this man's brain and all of his senses, it is going to be a trip. And, bring on the wild roller coaster ride trips. There's not enough of them in our lifetime.
Well, when approaching Lynch, you do have a 50-year career to look back on, right? The shorts were in the early 70s, and he never really stopped working. He just didn't produce constantly. something that people could see. And he built this continuum of work because there's not a lot of separation between Eraserhead and well, specifically Inland Empire and a couple of the Twin Peaks Return episodes, where his fixations and fascinations never changed. The world caught up. And so he looks less avant-garde, but it's that weird thing where if you look back and you realize he never deviated from his aesthetic, but the world started to, advertising took it over, and the beautiful ugliness, the blown out whites in Eraserhead are there again in Inland Empire in a different medium, but it's still the same effect. His incredible ability to relate emotion on celluloid or video, to capture feeling, and to turn it against drama almost, where the plot isn't so important as the state, the emotional state, or the mind of the protagonist. And it's, I don't think he was a filmmaker who asked a lot of questions in a weird way. Like, I look back at his movies and they're all about answers. They're all about telling us that the world is bigger than we can imagine and that it's still going to be okay. I never would have thought, it's the strangest thing, but since his death, I've revisited a lot of his movies, and it's like they're hopeful. They're hopeful, with maybe the exception of Wild at Heart, which is, and definitely Fire Walk with Me, which ends in a horrible place, although it is still beautiful in its horror. He was an artist who wanted the best for his characters. Like, he genuinely engaged with and loved the people he created.
I totally agree. I think that you can't have hope without horror. You can't have light without dark. Like, I think he's kind of engaged with all of it, but not in a scratching the surface, not in a superficial, not in a fake, razzmatazz way. I love that. I don't know, it's a critic, Mark Fisher, maybe, I'm not sure, but he said it's like watching in the Inland Empire is like having a direct feed to Lynch's unconscious. It's like a direct line, the purity of that. So I find like that the end of Inland Empire, and also there's pepperings throughout, really hopeful. It's so soulful. It's so moving. It's actually so full of love. But again, with love, there's suffering. With hope, there's pain, there's despair, there's agony, there's beauty, there's light, there's so much light. Like, he goes right into the light so that it's completely blown out, and then he's just as committed or curious or engaged with the dark. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm like, I know it's there. I don't want to engage with it. Let me just stay on the light side, stay on the light side. But the darkness is always there. So when I look at Inland Empire, I'm like, wow, he's really gonna dive in deep, go deep or go home. That's what it feels like with Lynch. And it's an accumulation of everything he's ever made, I think, this film. And I'm only sorry that we won't get to see where he would go next.
Yeah, he had a good long life, and given how much he smoked, I'm amazed he lived as long as he did. But his window, to be part of sort of the new American cinema, really, in a way that no one acknowledges, because he was so outside the box, and he was a midnight movie guy because of Eraserhead. But then the next thing he made was The Elephant Man, which is just this elaborate period piece that's also incredibly touching and beautiful, and a film about kindness that was not at all seen as such, right? Like, no one thinks of that movie the way he intended it, because it was, it was up against, I still find it absolutely fascinating that Raging Bull, Ordinary People, and The Elephant Man were all up for Best Picture in 1980. It's just such a perfect snapshot of where creativity was going, and then that was no longer possible. But his films were always about anxiety and apprehension and the fear of the unknown, but also the fear of the different. And othering and outsidering. And that's just like, that's where all of culture is now. And I think in a weird way, like him dying just before Trump's second term started is strangely poetic, because for someone who believed in goodness and a certain type of Americana, I think Trump would have been like this, what we're seeing now would have been too much in its own way.
Yeah, he's cursing right now. He's cursing. He didn't listen. He's cursing. He's cursing. Um, well, massive love to Lynch, and we have this incredible body of work. I can still remember where I was seeing Wild at Heart, seeing The Elephant Man, seeing Lost Highway at Vancouver International Film Festival, seeing Blue Velvet. I go to Cucaloris, a film festival in Wilmington, North Carolina, just to look at the Carolina apartments,
Right.
where Blue Velvet was shot. Like, he's just in my bones. I will never stop sort of like carrying him around with me as I make every single one of my films and think, what would Lynch do? Because Lynch to me is courage. Lynch to me is like badass follow through and pure intuition and trust and radical and artist and one of a kind.
That's something I hadn't really thought about. It is possible, isn't it? You can check in with someone by watching their work when it's as distinctive and specific as this. You can go visit David Lynch anytime you want, as long as you have time to sit in the dark with him.
Yeah, any time of day. Inland Empire, 10 a.m. Try it. It's a wild ride.
Well, as far as your own work, because I don't want to leave this out. I do find it fascinating that your new film, Crocodile Eyes, looks like Inland Empire somehow. It's got the looseness, it's got um, the naturalism of a digital production. You open with the Dogma 95 stuff, but it's also just about living, I mean, very literally living in the moment. That's sort of the culmination in a way of your own, not obsessions exactly, but the themes you've been working with throughout. What is it like to exist in the world?
Yeah. And I think life cycles for all of us, we're born and we die, and when we have these life experiences in between. Um, and I shot, yeah, a Sony flip screen Handycam. And it's also Crocodile Eyes. It has got the making of a film embedded in it. So with the 100 pink post-it notes, and again, without a script, without an outline, piecing these fragments of life together in some semblance of what will ultimately be a movie, but with no clear result in mind, just essentially the thesis being capturing real moments and asking what makes a moment real, and then going out and engaging with life and everything that comes with it. Some things really painful, and some things really really light and beautiful, and some things dark, and some things hilarious.
And it is everything. Like, it is ultimately everything. You don't pull away for a spectacular crane shot at the end, but you have captured the entirety of, well, not existence. That's a bit big, I think.
Yeah.
But that's what it felt like to me. You're scratching at the edges of something infinite. And so was Lynch. Like, there's something going on that I can't understand, but I still want to be part of it.
Yeah, and I think I don't have a crane shot, but I think my sort of equivalent is at the end of Crocodile Eyes, there's a conversation with all of the players in the film, my mother and my daughter and my son and my granddaughter and the actor that plays my husband. And I film them watching the film for the very first time, like the crane shot in a way. They're watching the film for the very first time, and they're reacting to it in the moment, very truthfully, very honestly, and by extension, kind of giving their consent. My daughter giving her consent to have the birth of her son in the film. My mother giving the consent to have, her husband of 60 years take his last breath in the film. And so that's kind of I kind of think that's sort of the equivalent of, Inland Empire, and her flicking on the lighter and having Laura look to the light before she takes her last breath, and then going into Nina Simone's, you know, amazing credit sequence play over the dance number, and the lumberjack sawing the wood, and the one-legged lady walking through the shot, and all of the players sort of on the chairs as Lynch moves around with his handheld camera in a single shot for this epic final sequence. So there's definitely Lynch influence in Crocodile Eyes.
Yeah. And even if it is simply just you being surrounded by your family, that's kind of what he built for himself in every movie.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's a good legacy.
Yeah, I hope I get to do a few more, though. I hope I get to do a few more. Crocodile Eyes is feature number 8. I really hope I get to go to 11. I don't know why, just because 11's my number. So I got 3 more in me, Norm. 3 more features in me.
Oh, at least. Okay. You're young.
At least, knock on wood. Where's my wood? I got my big log of wood. I got my big log of wood because we have this ice storm here. So I'm going to knock on literally a big piece of wood. That's for Lynch.
My thanks to Ingrid Veninger, whose new movie Crocodile Eyes is playing this Thursday, April 17th at the VIFF Center in Vancouver as part of their Canadian Film Week series. It's unlikely to get a digital release, so catch it if you can. Thanks also to Ingrid Hamilton. She knows what she did. You can find Ingrid on Instagram at punkfilmsnow, all one word, PUNKFILMSNOW, and you can find Inland Empire on Blu-ray and DVD in the Criterion Collection, and streaming on the Criterion Channel in North America and on Max in the US as well. It's also available to rent or buy on various VOD services. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/Semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 41 of which aren't currently available anywhere else, and one of which is Ingrid's first episode. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps. It truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, wear a mask if you go out, get the new booster as soon as you can. I'll see you next week.
Omaha Steaks makes it easy to keep great food on hand, so dinner time is simple and convenient. And right now, you can get 12 free burgers and free shipping for life when you shop at omahasteaks.com/yourplan. At Omaha Steaks, you're in control. Order once or set up recurring shipments for more savings, more convenience, and inflation-proof pricing. Visit omahasteaks.com/yourplan to get started today and get 12 free burgers and free shipping for life. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.